Got a warning to stop disturbing the class. I was at home with a cold. It was my birthday, so I was in a good mood. Went to first period Spanish still really happy, walked into the class and said hello sir cheerfully. He then turned around and said there will be no cockiness in this classroom. I then got put onto 3 days of exclusion for disrespecting teaching staff. Some kids were coughing super loudly to annoy the teacher, and I then sneezed unintentionally because I had a cold. The teacher thought I did it on purpose, called my parents, and told them I was being disrespectful. Suspended for 2 days. So when I was in 5th grade, an old friend of mine stole my keys for the lock of my bike. I chased after him around the whole school building. Suddenly, a teacher started shouting at us, and while I looked at her, my friend let me trip over his leg and I fell on my knee. Later, in the nurse's office, the teacher came and told me I was getting suspended for a week because of fighting. The thief received no punishment. I put a singular Dorito on my teacher's chair and she sat on it. She said it was sexual abuse, cried, and left the class for the rest of the period. I ended up getting 2 days ISS, but it was worth it. I once said bless you during a test, 2 days of detention. A boy in my French class had broken his arm and couldn't do any work or write. He asked our teacher where the bin was so he could throw some paper away. Our teacher shouted at him, "Why haven't you written anything? Stop being lazy," and he got a detention. My friend has diabetes and one day, during a class test, he felt very sick so I quickly helped him. He could have died. The teacher suspended me for 2 days and gave me an F because I disturbed the class during a test. My Spanish teacher really has a grudge for me, and one day he gave me a detention for not writing the date in my notebook. Copied and pasted the word example 10,000 times in Microsoft Excel. I deleted it all in under 2 seconds, but the teacher kept screaming at me. Sent me to the principal's office, called my parents, detention for 5 days, and wasn't allowed to use the computers anymore. When I was in 4th grade, I wanted money so I offered to write homework for my classmates for $1 each. My best friend accepted, and because he was my best friend, I gave him a 50-cent discount. Then the teachers found out and told me to give everyone their money back. They didn't know about the discount, so I had to give him $1. I spent about 20 minutes doing homework and lost $0.5. Someone pulled down my pants and everyone saw my junk. I got suspended for flashing and for sexual abuse. I was in middle school and it was someone's birthday. I was in the cafeteria and their friends started singing happy birthday. Eventually the entire cafeteria was singing along. The principal entered and made us quiet down. He said there are no happy birthdays at this middle school, and we had to eat the rest of lunch in silence. At school I refused to ballroom dance and was then punished with detention. After the school day I was called to the deputy principal's office and my mother was waiting there for me. They sent me to see the school counselor for a month for refusing to dance. Coloring the wrong way. My 1st grade math teacher would have rather had me coloring with the strokes all the same way than in the lines. I put my friend's water bottle down on the steps. Then this teacher I had beef with comes over and tells me I have to write a page essay explaining why that was a dangerous thing to do. I once got suspended for 2 days because our school had a very strict no smoking policy. The cigarettes weren't even mine. A friend just passed the pack to me to hold while he tied his shoelaces, and a teacher came around the corner at the wrong time. I got in trouble for correcting the teacher when she said my name wrong during attendance. I once was spinning a basketball on my middle finger. I got detention for 3 days because I was flipping the bird to everyone. Once, when I was in 7th grade, we had this homework which was to color in a tree. I colored mine brown, since I like the color brown. The next day, the teacher yelled at me for not doing my homework because the tree wasn't green and alive. She made me spend all of lunch coloring in that damn tree. I once got a detention for, and I'm quoting from the letter sent to my parents, producing a chocolate roll and commenting on how delicious it was. Once when I was in 6th grade, I went to the bathroom to pee. There were 3 of my classmates playing tag or something in the bathroom for some reason. They used to climb the toilets and the doors and tag others then hide. While I was peeing, a toilet shattered and the boy that climbed on it fell. We all had to pay for that toilet, even me. I was just peeing. In 7th grade I had a very strict English teacher. It was the end of the year, so she thought it would be fun if we played a game of telephone as long as we didn't make fun of anyone in the class. I started and came up with "Nobody likes Justin Bieber," just to be funny. It went around the circle and finally the last kid blurts out, "Nobody likes Justin." There was a kid in our class named Justin. I got detention. When I was in 3rd grade, I was in an after-school daycare-ish program. A girl threw a brick at my head. Hard. I was holding a ball in my hands and threw it lightly away so I could go sit down somewhere. The girl went and told on me because the ball hurt her leg, and the counselor heard my side of the story, but I alone got in trouble because violence is never the answer. By the way, I didn't do anything to upset the girl. I was just standing there. I once drew a superhero as part of an assignment at my elementary school years ago. I gave it to my teacher and said, "This is for you." She must have misheard me and thought I said, "This is you." My drawing must have been really bad, considering she was considering calling my parents after giving me a detention slip. I was flipping a water bottle and my teacher saw me. Water bottle flipping is banned at my school. To be a rebel, I flipped the bottle again when my teacher was still looking. I got a detention and no recess for 3 days. At least I landed the bottle flip. I was stood in the dinner line with my friend when I mimed "How do I turn my volume up?" My friend then pretended to turn up my volume, and I yelled, "How do I turn my volume up?" I was in 1st grade. My teacher that didn't like children asked the class whose name meant something in a different language. I raised my hand and said that mine meant Sylvia in French. Then she asked who was born in a different state. I raised my hand again because I, being a 7-year-old, thought I was born in Michigan. She turned to me and screamed at the top of her lungs, "Just because your name is French doesn't mean you were born there." I never raised my hand again until 6th grade. I got 2 hours of detention for using a ruler that was too long. This was back in 3rd grade. So I was walking into class with my morning sandwich. The teacher was already inside, but there was still time until the lesson began, so I continued eating my sandwich. The new teacher then snapped the sandwich out of my hands and said, "No meat in this classroom." Apparently he was a vegetarian. 2 hours of detention for eating my sandwich. I got suspended for saying hell. Filling in my name in the bubbles for a standardized test. Teacher thought I started the test without her permission and kicked me out the classroom. I asked my teacher if I could go to the bathroom and she said sure. Then when I got back, my teacher yelled at me for leaving the class without permission, and I said I asked to go. She then said, "I won't allow you to talk to me like that." Even other people in the class told her that I asked, but she was too stubborn to admit it. After all that, I got 3 weeks of detention. I remember once in year 3, every class in the grade was gathered in one classroom to practice singing Christmas carols for an upcoming night. My friend next to me wasn't singing, so I told him that he should sing. A teacher noticed and made me sit at the back of the class, and the next day, at recess, I had to pick up 50 pieces of rubbish. He apparently thought I had been talking for the past 5 minutes. One time, a dog was at the front of my school and whimpering, so I went to see what was wrong. It looked like it had a broken leg, so I took it to the school nurse. I got punished for having a pet on the grounds, but at least they called the vet. The dog is fine. It was a normal day in my music class. We were learning how to play the recorder, so my teacher made us play the same song at the same time. I was pretty good at it, so I tried to show myself off by blowing the instrument with my nose. The teacher knew who was the one doing it differently because it sounded better than the rest of the class. I got kicked from the class for being too good at playing the recorder with my nose. Next episode's question is, what gets weirder and weirder the more you think about it? To submit your answer for a chance to be featured, use the link below.